And tonight, in tonight's forum in Brisbane, the Prime Minister, Julia Gillard, again trumpeted the government's investment in the national broadband network. But the opposition says the NBN's a white elephant and has put up a much cheaper option. So who's best to lead Australia's digital future? To debate their party's broadband policies, we're joined live from Perth by the Minister for Broadband Communications and the Digital Economy, Stephen Conroy, and from Melbourne by the Opposition Minister for the same portfolio, Tony Smith. Thanks for both of you for being there.
Good evening, Tony. Good evening,
Good
Steve.
to be with you, Tony.
Stephen Conroy, we'll start with you. And can you explain for us, first of all, why Australia needs to spend $43 billion, if it ends at that, with a cost per head of population that's vastly higher than what's being spent in governments on broadband in the US, in Europe and in Britain?
Well, Australia has been falling behind our international competitors for the last 12 years. Australians pay some of the most expensive and have some of the slowest broadband in the OECD nations, the developed nations. And small businesses in Australia pay almost the third highest broadband costs in the OECD. All over Australia. As I've travelled, Australians are crying out for a genuine improvement in their broadband. And what Labor is offering is the best possible available technology, the best possible combinations of technology, satellite, wireless and fibre to the home, so that every single Australian can get access to genuine broadband. It's not an argument about can we afford to build the national broadband network, Tony. It's whether or not we can afford not to build it. Our competitors are building fibre networks. We are falling further and further behind.
Just on that question of cost, before I go to Tony Smith, is it true, as your critics argue, that the cost per head of population of this broadband scheme of yours is more than $2,000?
Well, that's a cost that's based on a one-off time. This is an investment in an asset that goes between 30 and 50 years. So when you take that into account, that it's actually a cost for an asset over all of that time period, Tony, you find that cost becomes absolutely minuscule compared to the benefits that all Australians will get by turbocharging competition and by boosting our productivity and unleashing Australian innovation.
All right, let's go to Tony Smith, because you've gone for the much cheaper option. Why is that?
Well, we wanted to deliver something that was responsible, affordable and deliverable. And I noticed Stephen conveniently would not mention the figure. It is $2,000 for every man, woman and child for Labor's reckless $43 billion NBN. It amounts to about $5,000 for every household. This is a $43 billion debt plunge, and that is to build it. And that is the minimum cost. That is, Tony, if everything goes right over an 8-year period. That is, if every duck lines up, nothing goes wrong. I mean, at the peak of this, they're connecting 4,000 houses a day. And that's why industry analysts have pointed out this is an incredible spend by government by world standards. There's nothing comparable to this level of government intervention. And that $43 billion, that is just the starting point. As one analyst pointed out just a couple of weeks ago, it would not be unusual to see a blowout of 50 to 100% in the cost of building the network. And of course, for every delay, there's more taxpayers' dollars involved. And the other point, Stephen, conveniently...
Well, actually, shall we just deal with that point first? Shall we just deal with the cost first of all? Stephen Conroy, you've heard this now many times. I mean, people saying the cost of your network is going to blow out possibly to $100 billion. Can you guarantee that it won't?
We haven't heard this. We actually haven't heard this many times. We've got one analyst that Tony Abbott like to try and claim. Let's be clear about this. We've delivered...
Well, I heard him on ABC Radio. I heard his own words.
Thanks, Tony. We have delivered the Tasmanian project, where we've got live services to people in Tasmania now, on time and 10% under budget. We are delivering the 6,000 kilometres of backbone that we've got underway at the moment on time and on budget. the industry at large believes that this can be delivered for less than $43 billion. And importantly, the recent deal we reached with Telstra reduced the cost of the NBN. Industry experts, none of them associated with the NBN, have all argued that the savings to NBN is somewhere in the $4 to $6 billion region. So Tony continues to just grab one person and try and suggest that he represents the industry view. He is far from the industry view, and the industry believes this is deliverable within the budgeting envelope that we put in place.
A very quick answer to this one, Stephen Conroy. Can you guarantee that if things start to go wrong with this infrastructure project, as they've gone wrong with other infrastructure projects, that no extra public money will be put in? You're budgeting for $26 or $27 billion of public money, but no extra public money will go in. Can you guarantee that?
Well, as we said, we have delivered the Tasmanian part of this leg so far under budget. But what is important to understand is that this is a project that replicates itself. It's the same project being done all over the country. So where there is a process that you're going through in each different locality, you learn from that. You find the best methods that have worked in all of those localities, and you take that information and you take it into all of the future parts of the build. So this is in actual fact a process that locks itself into finding the best methods each time as we roll out across Australia and reducing the costs. We are under budget on the build so far. We've got some of the world's leading experts in technology, in rolling out this network. And Tony mentioned the 4,000 to 5,000 people, homes that we have to connect per day. That's exactly what Mike Quigley used to do in the United States when he rolled out networks in the United States.
All right. Now, we've talked about the costing, we've talked about the timing. Tony Smith, let's talk about your broadband plan.
Sure.
It's costed at $6 billion.
$6.3 billion.
$6.3 billion. Many experts say it'll be vastly inferior in terms of speed and risk becoming redundant in just a few years. How can you guarantee it won't?
Well, look, what we're trying to do is ensure that we put down the platform and we unleash competition and we deal with the black spots. Now, let me just go through, just very quickly, the key elements. We are spending $2.75 billion on fibre optic backbone that will run right around the country. That will have a huge competitive effect. It will mean that every telecommunications company, Tony, can access that backbone network known as the backhaul network. It will drive competition, particularly into rural and regional areas where broadband will be delivered across a number of platforms. We're also introducing some competition reforms for longer term pricing from the ACCC. But on top of that, in tandem, we are taking action to bring those who've got a poor broadband service up to speed, up to a decent speed, as fast as possible.
Well, let me come to you on the decent speed question, because your plan has a low end speed of just 12 megabits per second. Now, what proportion of households will be stuck on that low end speed of 12 megabits per second?
Well, we've said that's a baseline, Tony, and we're doing that with a wireless network in rural and regional Australia, and we're doing it with a wireless network also in metropolitan, particularly outer metropolitan areas.
But have you estimated what proportion of households will be on that, really rather low speed?
Well, it's a baseline that all households will have access to, but of course today, Tony, many households have access to higher speeds. Those on ADSL 2+ have access to the fastest speeds on copper. Of course, they are faster the closer you live to the exchange. But of course, with the HFC cable network, the pay TV cable network that we have passing 2.5 million homes in our capital cities, Telstra lit that up last year here in Melbourne at 100 megabits a second. And